So, now that we found the surface area of a cone, let's find the volume of a cone. How you usually find the volume of something is base times height, right? And we're going to see that this isn't the case with a cone. But for now, let's start with that. So here we have the radius of our cone and the height right down the middle. And this is not the same as the slant height. The height has to be right down the middle. All right, so let's plug in what we know. The base, the area of the base, area of this circle is going to be pi r squared, because our radius is r, times the height, which is the height. And what we've actually found when we use this formula is the area of a cylinder with the same dimensions. So we now know that this pi r squared times height is the volume of this whole cylinder, but we only want the cone. And it turns out that this cone takes up 1/3 of the whole volume of the cylinder. And you can kind of tell that by this triangle. This is the one of the 3 triangles that are formed in this cylinder, one being right here and one over here. So that's where we get the formula that the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared times the height. All right. So now that we've figured out the volume of a cone, let's try some examples. So here we have our cone. Here we have our cone. And let's say that the radius of this cone is 6 and the height down the middle is 10. And we'll use the unit meters. All right. So we now know the volume is 1/3 pi r squared times height. So for our cone, 1/3 pi, and our radius is 6 squared times the height, and our height is 10. All right, so 6 squared, 1/3 pi times 36 times 10. 36 divided by 3 is 12. So now we have 12 pi times 10. 12 times 10 is 120. So our answer is 120 pi. All right. Now let's try another one. Here we have another cone. And let's say that the slant length of this cone is 10. And our diameter, this diameter of this circle, the base, is 6. So we know that we need the radius of our circle and the height. And they didn't give us either in this problem. So we need to figure them out. They give us the slant length and the diameter. So let's go ahead and start by writing out our formula. The volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. And we need the radius and the height. Well, we know that the radius of a circle is 1/2 the diameter. So this radius right here is going to be 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So we now know our radius is 3. And they gave us the slant length right here. And we need the height. And what we have right here is a right triangle. So I'll redraw the right triangle down here. And our right triangle, the hypotenuse, is the same thing as the slant length, which is 10. And the radius is this part right here. Or I'm sorry, this bottom leg is the same thing as the radius, this part down here. And our radius is 3. And now we have a right triangle, and we can just use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'll call this leg A, this one B, and then hypotenuse is C. So we know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A is 3, so 3 squared plus B squared equals 10 squared. 9 plus B squared equals 100. Subtract 9 from both sides. B squared equals 91. So B equals the square root of 91, and that's our height. So now we know that our height is the square root of 91. And we know that this is our height because that's this length right here, which is the same thing as this length right here. So now we have our radius and our height, and we can just plug it into our formula. So we have 1/3 times pi, and r is 3. So 3 squared times our height, the square root of 91. So now we have 1/3 pi times 9 times the square root of 91. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so we have 3 pi square root of 91. And I didn't label a unit, so we'll just say units cubed. Sorry, down here this is meters cubed. And that's our answer. And that is how we find the volume of a cone.